The sky cracked open with sound, not thunder but something far worse. Kellen ducked behind a broken wall, dust filling his mouth as the enemy's plasma strike tore the ridge apart. His ears rang. His chest heaved. All he had was a half-charged pulse rifle, a cracked visor, and no idea how many of his squad were still alive. The war wasn't supposed to reach this far. The Trinari had promised a border treaty, and the Alliance believed them. But everything changed when the skyships came. Thousands of them, shaped like blades, cutting into human space with no warning. Cities turned to ash. Colonies disappeared. The human soldiers had been spread too thin. Kellen had been stationed on a mining moon, barely trained for combat. Now he was watching the end of the war play out from the ground. A low sound made him lift his head. It wasn't human. It wasn't machine. It was breathing, heavy and strange. Cautiously he moved toward the source, rifle shaking slightly in his hands. Just past the rubble, he saw her. An alien. She wasn't like the others he had seen in training footage. The Trinari were usually covered in full body armor, faceless, almost insect-like in their movements. But this one was different. Her armor was still advanced, lined with coils and glowing points, but it was damaged. Smoke rose from her shoulder. Part of her helmet was missing. And her face was not monstrous. It was sharp, regal, strangely beautiful. Her skin had a bluish-silver tone, and long black tendrils hung from her head like cords. She was wounded. One arm hung limply. The other rested over her stomach. Her chest rose and fell fast, like she had just escaped death. Kellen raised his weapon instinctively. She didn't move. Seconds passed. Then her eyes opened, piercing, glowing, intelligent. Not like prey. Like a queen. She looked at him without fear. Without anger. Just silence. Kellen didn't know what he was doing until his rifle lowered. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was madness. Or maybe, deep inside, he knew she wasn't the kind that gave the order to attack. He stepped closer. She didn't flinch. Her armor sparked again, a warning light flashing near her side. A broken seal. He recognized the tech, not human but similar. If it failed, she'd bleed out internally. Without thinking, he dropped his rifle and pulled out a portable welder from his belt pouch. His fingers worked fast, finding the fracture, aligning the seam. She still didn't speak. Then as he moved the torch near a glowing joint in her chest plate, her hand snapped up and gripped his wrist, tight and sudden. His heart skipped. Her voice was low, accented but clear. Not there. Never touch it. He stared into her eyes. She wasn't angry. She was warning him. I was just trying to help, he said quietly. You don't know what that part controls, she replied. You would have killed me. Kellen swallowed hard and nodded. He adjusted his work, focusing on the outer locks instead. As the torch hissed, she didn't take her eyes off him. Not for a second. Minutes passed in silence, the battlefield still burning in the background. Two enemies sitting in the ruins, one fixing the other's armor like it was the most normal thing in the universe. When he finished sealing the break, he sat back, hands dirty, face smudged. You're not what I expected, he said. She blinked slowly. Neither are you. Around them, the war raged on. But something had shifted. Two enemies had seen each other, not as monsters, but as something else. Something that didn't fit the rules of war, and neither of them knew what would happen next. Smoke hung low across the field like a gray blanket. Kellen checked the sky. No drones, no reinforcements, just silence and ruins. The alien woman beside him sat still, watching him with calm, unreadable eyes. Her breathing was slower now, but she looked like someone used to hiding pain. Kellen didn't ask her name. He wasn't sure if she'd give it. You got a squad? He asked after a while, voice low. She didn't answer at first. Her hand brushed the side of her cracked armor, checking the seal he had repaired. Then she looked up, eyes sharp. They're dead. He nodded slowly. Mine too. It was strange how easy that sentence came out. A few hours ago he had been screaming into the radio, calling for help. Now he just accepted it. War made things simple and cruel. She turned her head slightly as if listening to something. They'll be back soon. This place will burn again. Then we move, he said. The alien woman gave a faint nod. Her legs were stiff, but she rose. Kellen offered a hand. She didn't take it. But she followed him. They walked through cracked stone and fallen metal, past crushed vehicles and shattered signs written in both human and alien letters. This place had been a joint colony once, built for peace, the kind of dream politicians bragged about. Now it was ash. Kellen stopped by a supply crate buried under rubble. He pulled out a ration kit and a small water canister. She watched him open one and take a bite before reaching for her own. Her movements were sharp and graceful, like a predator hiding in plain sight. "Why are you helping me?" she finally asked. He didn't answer right away. He didn't know how. "You didn't shoot me." "That's a good start." She raised an eyebrow. "That's your standard? In this war?" "Yeah." The corner of her mouth almost curved into something like a smile, but it vanished fast. Kellen sat on a broken pillar. She stood beside a wrecked engine, scanning the horizon like a hawk. Her posture was straight, even wounded. She looked like she had never lost a fight. Like queens in old stories, the kind who walked through fire and didn't bow to anyone. "You're a soldier," he said. "I was a general," she corrected. He looked up. "You don't sound sure." "I disobeyed," she said. "My command ordered a bombardment on a civilian camp. I refused. They called me traitor. My own forces turned on me. That's why I was alone." Kellen blinked. He hadn't expected that. "You refused to bomb civilians?" "I told them humans weren't the monsters they think. That they would fight harder if we made them suffer. My counsel didn't listen, so I left." The silence between them grew heavy. He broke it with a small chuckle. "Guess you're more human than most humans I know." She tilted her head. "That's not a compliment in my culture." They moved again, cutting through alleyways. Kellen noticed she limped slightly. Her leg was injured worse than she let on. He offered her a shoulder. She paused, then finally rested her hand on him. It was cold through the armor, but steady. The day faded. As they reached the edge of the ruins, the landscape opened into red cliffs and dry rivers. In the distance, strange lights blinked across the horizon. Scout ships scanning wreckage. "We can rest in that ravine," he said, pointing. "Stay low, wait for dark." She didn't argue. They made their way down into the rocky slope. Kellen gathered debris and made a small heat source. Not a fire, just enough to warm the air. She sat across from him, silent, unreadable. Finally he asked, "What's your name?" She hesitated, then said Valari. Kellen nodded. "Kellen." They sat there under the stars, two soldiers from opposite sides of a war, sharing silence, warmth, and the first moment of peace either of them had felt in a long time. And somewhere in the distance, war machines rolled toward the ruins they'd just left behind. Kellen woke before the first light. The air was cold in the ravine. Dust clung to his face and lips. His muscles ached, but he stayed still. Across the small camp, Valari sat awake, unmoving. Her eyes were locked on the sky, where the stars were fading behind thin clouds. She hadn't slept. "Not once. You don't sleep?" he asked quietly. "I can't," she said. "Not here." "Not now," he didn't press. The way she sat, tense, alert, told him enough. Whatever her training was, it ran deeper than instinct. She had the focus of someone used to betrayal. They ate quickly. Kellen shared his last 2 ration bars. Valari didn't complain about the human food, though her expression showed she hated the taste. She still didn't take off her armor, not even the helmet fragments that hung broken at the side of her head. Only her face remained bare. That and her trust, if only a little. They climbed out of the ravine before sunrise, moving through the canyon in silence. Kellen led the way, scanning for motion. Valari followed, every footstep careful, controlled. She stopped suddenly. Her hand went up. Kellen dropped low, trusting her without question. A soft hum buzzed through the wind. Distant, mechanical. "Scout drone," she said. "Not human." He glanced up, spotted the silver dot moving between clouds. "It's scanning the ruins." "We're not the only survivors," she added. Kellen nodded. "We head for the comms array. If we can reach the outpost, I can send a long-range signal." Valari narrowed her eyes. "That will bring more than help. It will bring whoever's hunting me. Then we make it fast," he said. She didn't answer, but she didn't argue either. The climb through the canyons was hard. Steep ridges, loose rocks, and thin air slowed them both. Valari stumbled once. Kellen caught her elbow. "I'm fine," she said. "You're limping. I've limped through worse." "I don't doubt that," he replied, steadying her again. By noon, the sun beat down hard. They reached a plateau overlooking the ruins of a satellite station, twisted metal and shattered towers. But in the center, a single structure still stood, the comms array. "Damaged, but maybe still working. That's it," Kellen said. "If the core's intact, I can boost a signal." Valari didn't move. Her eyes were locked on something else. Below, among the rubble, moved shadows. 5 figures. Trinari soldiers, fully armored. Their movements were careful, methodical. "They're searching," she said. "For us," Kellen cursed under his breath. "We don't have time to wait. If I sneak in while they search the north side, they'll see you," she cut in. "Only if I'm loud. I've done recon before." She gave him a long, unreadable stare. "You're not one of their trained killers, are you?" "I'm just a tech engineer," he said. "But right now, that's all you've got." She hesitated, then removed something from her wrist. A small, glowing crystal attached to a cord. She handed it to him. "If they catch you, destroy this." "It's a command key. It links to my armor's core." He looked at it. "Why give this to me?" "Because I don't want to die by my own people's hands. And I don't want you to die because of my past." Kellen swallowed hard. Took the crystal. Tied it to his vest. "I'll be back," he said. "Be careful," she replied, voice quieter now. He gave her one last look, then slipped down the rocky edge and into the ruins. Velari watched him disappear, her breath shallow. Her hand hovered over the weapon at her side. She didn't trust easily. She couldn't afford to. But something about the human made her pause. She hoped that this strange, soft-spoken soldier didn't die proving his loyalty. She hoped the war hadn't already claimed him. Kellen moved through the wreckage like a shadow, every step placed with care. The old metal beams creaked underfoot, but he knew where to step. Years of crawling through broken satellites and shattered reactors had taught him the language of ruins. He kept low, breathing slow, eyes scanning for movement. The enemy patrol was nearby. He could hear them. Muffled voices speaking Trinari, sharp and clipped. One soldier passed within 5 meters, scanning with a plasma rifle. Kellen waited until he moved on, then slipped deeper toward the center of the station. The comms array was a tall spire, bent and scorched, but its power core was buried underground. He dropped into the service hatch, cutting through twisted wires and shattered access panels. It was dark inside. He flicked on his wrist light and found the control panel, half melted but still connected. He reached for the main line, hands trembling. "Come on," he whispered. "Just one signal. Just one pulse." Outside, Velari crouched among rocks high above. Her eyes scanned the ruins below, tracking every enemy movement. She saw the soldiers splitting up. One headed toward the structure Kellen had entered. Her heart pounded harder. She told herself to stay hidden. She was wounded, low on energy. If she moved now, she risked both of them. But her fingers closed around the handle of her weapon. The light on her chest plate blinked red again. Unstable core. Still, she rose. Below, inside the control room, Kellen patched the lines together. The power surged, lights flickering. The panel buzzed to life. He entered the old military codes, fingers flying across the cracked screen. A low hum filled the room. The array reactivated. Then he heard a voice behind him. "Don't move." Kellen froze. One of the Trinari soldiers stood at the entrance, weapon raised. The soldier stepped closer, visor reflecting the flickering blue light. The gun didn't waver. Kellen raised his hand slowly. "I'm unarmed," he said. The soldier tilted his head, then took a step forward. "Human trash," he muttered. Kellen's hand moved to his chest toward the crystal Velari had given him. "Stop." The soldier shouted. A blur of movement dropped from above. Velari landed hard behind the soldier, blade drawn, armor flaring. The soldier turned, too slow. Her strike was fast, brutal. He fell before he could fire. Kellen gasped. "You said stay hidden." "They were closing in," she said, wiping her blade clean. "I'm not letting you die for this." He looked down at the body. "You risked everything." "I weighed the risk," she said. "You were worth it." The comms array beeped. "Signal sent." Kellen turned back to the screen. "Transmission locked. Emergency beacon active. Someone should hear it. Or intercept it," Velari said. "We need to move," he nodded. "There's a supply tunnel beneath this level. It leads to the riverbed. We can vanish before they regroup." They descended quickly. The tunnel was narrow, full of heat and steam. Kellen led with a light, Velari behind him, limping but silent. At the far end, they emerged near the canyon floor. The air was dry and open, wind brushing past them like whispers. They stopped for a moment. "Just breathing." "I thought I'd be dead by now," Kellen said. "You still might," Velari replied. "But you surprised me," he smiled. "You're hard to impress." She looked at him, her expression softening. Most humans I've seen die easily. You keep standing. They kept walking side by side, deeper into the wild lands. Far behind them, the signal pulsed through space, calling to anyone who might answer. Friend or foe, and above them something old stirred in the clouds, something that had been watching, waiting. They walked until the sun began to fall, the sky turning orange and gray. Kellen's boots were torn. Vailari's limp had worsened. Her armor hissed faintly with every step. Even though they didn't speak much, their silence was different now. It wasn't the silence of strangers. It was the silence of people who knew they could count on each other. They reached a hidden cave just as the first patrol drones flew overhead. Kellen pulled a panel of rock down to block the entrance. Inside, the air was cool. Safe. For now. Vailari sat on a stone slab, her head resting back against the wall. Her breathing was shallow again. Kellen knelt beside her, checking the damaged section near her side. The armor had cracked open again. Red fluid slowly seeped out, a strange mix of blood and something glowing. "We have to take this off," Kellen said. "No, you're bleeding." She opened her eyes, tired but sharp. "You don't understand. My armor isn't just armor. It's connected to me. If you touch the wrong piece again—" "I remember," he said quietly. "But if we don't seal this now, you'll die anyway." Vailari didn't answer. Her jaw tightened, but she shifted slightly, giving him access. He worked carefully, slowly removing a side plate, avoiding the glowing lock she had warned him about. He cleaned the wound with what little supplies he had. It wasn't enough, but he wrapped it in sealant mesh and pressed his hand gently over the spot to hold it. Her hand came up, slow, hesitant, and rested over his. "You learn fast," she whispered. "You teach fast," he replied. There was silence again, but this time it felt heavy in a different way. She leaned back and closed her eyes. He stayed beside her, watching her breathe. Outside, the wind howled against the rocks, and the sound of distant ships echoed faintly in the sky. Kellen leaned against the cave wall and pulled out the crystal she had given him. It glowed faintly in his palm. He turned it slowly, watching how the light pulsed with her own heartbeat. "What is this really?" he asked. "I know it's important, but why is it connected to you like this?" She opened her eyes. "It's a core link. Every Trainari general is bound to one. It holds parts of our memories, our authority, our command codes. If someone takes it, they could control my armor, my data, or destroy me." He looked down at the crystal again. "And you gave it to me." "I didn't have a choice," she said. "But I don't regret it." Kellen's fingers closed around it. "Then I'll protect it. Even if you don't trust me." Vailari looked at him. "I didn't say I don't trust you." He raised an eyebrow. "No, I said I can't trust anyone. But I'm trying." The cave grew darker. The faint glow from the crystal and her armor were the only lights now. They would rest tonight. Tomorrow they would need to move again. Kellen checked the signal transmitter clipped to his belt. It blinked. Someone had received the beacon, but who? He looked at Vailari, her eyes now closed, her breath steady. She looked peaceful for the first time. But in his chest a knot began to form. The signal had gone out. He had called for help. But help in a war like this didn't always come wearing friendly colors. Kellen woke to a soft sound. A distant hum, not the wind. It was coming from above the cave, growing louder. He sat up fast. Vailari was already on her feet, eyes glowing in the dark, one hand on her weapon. The sound wasn't natural. It was engines. "They found the signal," she said. Kellen moved to the small opening they had covered with stone. He peered out into the morning haze. A large ship was descending across the valley. It wasn't Trainari. It wasn't human military either. "It's civilian," he whispered. "A long-range hauler, lightly armed. But it's not here to trade," Vailari nodded. "Scavengers, raiders, they hunt for signals after battles. Wounded soldiers crash tech, easy prey." Kellen felt his stomach twist. "They're not here to help." "No," she said. "And they won't care what side we're on." The ship landed hard, sending dust flying. Its engines powered down. Kellen and Vailari stayed still, watching figures disembark. 4, maybe 5, all in scavenger armor, patchwork gear, faces hidden behind dark visors. One of them carried a pulse scanner. "They'll track heat." "We can't stay here," Kellen whispered. Vailari's hand moved to her side. She winced. Her wound wasn't ready for a fight. Kellen looked at her and shook his head. "You're not fighting. I'll draw them away. She glared. You'll die. I don't care, he said. You gave me that crystal because you believed I'd protect you. Let me do it. Before she could stop him, Kellen slipped out the back of the cave. He stayed low, moving through the rocks until he reached the ridge on the far side. Then he picked up a broken piece of plating and slammed it against a boulder. Once, twice, 3 times. The sound echoed. The scavengers turned toward the noise immediately. Kellen ran. He led them down the slope, across the canyon floor, dodging between rocks. The scanner's tone grew louder behind him. He could hear their boots, hear their shouts. But he kept moving, weaving, vanishing behind a broken engine pod. When the first scavenger rounded the corner, Kellen grabbed a shard of metal and swung. It wasn't a clean hit, but it knocked the man down. The second one fired. Kellen rolled, the shot burning the ground beside him. He grabbed the downed scavenger's weapon and returned fire. A flash, a scream, then silence. His chest heaved. 2 more were coming. Before they could reach him, a blue bolt struck one in the side. The scavenger dropped. The last turned to flee, but a tall figure landed in front of him, Vailari limping but fast. Her blade flashed once. Then there was only quiet. Kellen sat down hard. I told you not to follow. I didn't follow, she said, kneeling beside him. I led the last 2 away first. Then I came. He looked at her, chest still rising fast. You shouldn't have risked it. You're part of my command now, she said. That means you don't die unless I allow it. He laughed even through the pain. You really are a queen. She didn't smile, but her hand rested briefly on his shoulder. You're a fool, but a brave one. They searched the scavenger's ship quickly. It was damaged, barely flyable, but it had supplies, medkits, ammo, food. More importantly, it had a working map. Kellen showed her the blinking point on the screen. This sector, there's an old research station. Human and Trinari joint project before the war. It might still be hidden, still powered. Vailari studied the map. If it's intact, we can rest, regroup, maybe even send a stronger signal. Kellen nodded. We just need one good place to hide. One good place to plan. She looked at him, more serious now. Then we move. But this time we move as one. And in that broken valley, a strange alliance began to harden into something stronger. Something the war had no name for yet. The stars had started to disappear behind morning haze when Kellen and Vailari reached the far cliffs. The scavenger ship they had taken moved low and quiet, barely flying, its engines whining like tired animals. The station wasn't far now. It was buried in the desert mountains, hidden under ancient rock, forgotten by both sides of the war. Kellen sat at the controls, guiding the ship carefully. Vailari stood beside him, holding the scanner. I'm getting faint readings. Something's still active. No life signs. But power. Enough to be worth checking. Kellen nodded. If this place really was a joint station, there might be medtech. Maybe working communication lines. And maybe traps, she said. Old codes, auto defenses, he sighed. Better than dying in a hole. They landed in a narrow canyon. The station entrance was carved directly into the cliff wall, round doors covered in dust and vines. No one had entered here in years. Vailari pressed her hand to the control pad. Nothing happened. Kellen stepped forward with a fusion cell from the scavenger's gear and hooked it to the access panel. The lights flickered. A slow groan echoed through the canyon as the doors opened, revealing darkness beyond. Inside, it was cold. Old lights flickered weakly. The walls were covered in both human and Trinari writing. Kellen could still make out some of the mission signs. Harmony Research Facility, joint operation. Vailari moved ahead slowly, carefully. Her armor's sensors lit up. No movement. No heat signatures. It's abandoned. They moved through the halls. Dust-covered labs, broken monitors, smashed glass. But the deeper they went, the cleaner it became. Someone had sealed this part. Then they found it. A chamber with glowing lights, soft hums, and functioning systems. A clean room, Kellen exhaled. Still running after all this time. He stepped forward, activated the console, and accessed the database. It was partially corrupted, but fragments remained. He pulled up a file. Video logs. Vailari stepped beside him. That's her voice, she said quietly. Kellen played the clip. A Trinari scientist appeared on screen, younger, nervous. She spoke of progress in genetic research, human Trinari compatibility studies, emotional pattern comparisons. She's my mother. Vailari said suddenly. Kellen looked at her in shock. Your mother worked with humans? She believed in peace, Vailari said, eyes fixed on the screen. Even when the council warned her not to trust your kind. She stayed. This was her dream. Another log played, this time showing humans and Trinari laughing together. Eating. Training. One of them held a small child. Vailari stepped back, eyes narrowing. That's me, Kellen stared at her. You were here? He said. As a child? She nodded. Before the war. I grew up in this station. I was raised by both sides. Then the treaties broke. This place was shut down, covered up, and your mother, they said she vanished. But I think she stayed behind. They searched the rooms until they found a sealed door marked Habitation Unit 04. Inside, everything was still. There were photos, handwritten notes, and a bed that hadn't been touched in years. A soft light still blinked on a shelf, her mother's datapad. Vailari picked it up, opened it, and began to read. Slowly, silently, Kellen stepped back, giving her space. He saw her shoulders shake once, just once, before she straightened again. She believed in us, Vailari said. In this alliance. In something better than this war. Kellen placed a hand on her shoulder. So do I. She turned toward him. Then we finish what she started. And in that hidden chamber where peace had once been planted and buried, a new promise began to grow. They stayed inside the station for 2 days. Long enough for Kellen to repair parts of Vailari's armor with the old forge units and restore her damaged core seal. Long enough for her to recover some strength, though the limp in her leg never fully went away. The place was quiet, almost peaceful, like a forgotten dream hidden beneath the surface of war. But peace never lasted long. On the 3rd day, the alarms triggered. Kellen jumped from his bunk. The walls flashed red. Vailari was already at the central console. Her face was tight, jaw clenched. They found us, she said. Who? Not scavengers. Not humans. She looked him in the eye. My people. The Trinari High Guard. Kellen's heart dropped. How? She held up the crystal he'd been protecting. They were tracking it. I should have destroyed the link sooner. We can still run. No, she said. They've locked the sky. I feel the signal from orbit. They're coming to retrieve what they think belongs to them. You? Kellen asked. She nodded. Me, and this station. She looked around the chamber one last time. This place was supposed to be a bridge between our kinds. Now they'll turn it into rubble. Kellen moved to the weapons locker they had scavenged from the raiders. He loaded a rifle, handed her another. Then we make it worth something before they do. She looked at him, unsure whether to argue, but didn't. Outside, the sky roared. A Trinari lander descended like a falling blade, silver and wide, lined with glowing engines. Elite soldiers dropped from it. Tall, armored, their movements smooth like machines. These weren't scouts. These were enforcers. Inside the station, Vailari stood in front of the main entrance. Kellen took position near the side corridor. He had set charges along the hallway, non-lethal, but enough to slow anyone who got too close. You don't have to stay, Vailari said without looking at him. I do, Kellen replied. You already know that. The doors opened with a hiss. The High Guard entered. They moved like shadows, silent, disciplined. But they paused when they saw her. Vailari stepped forward. The lead commander removed his helmet. His face was hard, covered in ceremonial scars. Vailari of House Niren, he said coldly. You are ordered to return. I disobeyed, she said. I protected civilians. I fought beside a human. I remembered what this station was built for. You broke code. You sided with enemies. I chose what was right. Behind her, Kellen's weapon hummed. The commander looked at her with disappointment. We raised you to be a queen of war. You've become a voice for weakness, Vailari's eyes narrowed. No, I've become something more. She raised her blade. The High Guard moved. The battle was sharp, fast, brutal. Plasma strikes lit the chamber. Kellen fired from cover, forcing 2 soldiers back. Vailari met her old kin head-on, her blade moving in bright arcs of blue and silver. She wasn't fighting for survival anymore. She was fighting for meaning. One soldier broke past and reached Kellen. They struggled. The soldier slammed him into a wall, nearly knocking him out. But Kellen fought back with a broken pipe, hitting just hard enough to buy time. Vailari arrived just in time, dropping the attacker with 1 strike. Kellen coughed. Nice timing, she helped him up. You fight like an engineer. I am an engineer. Behind them, the commander still stood. His weapon raised, aimed straight at her. You are no queen, he said. You are a mistake, Valari stared him down. No, she said. I'm what comes after you, and she threw her blade. It struck hard. The commander fell. The chamber went silent. Kellen caught her as she staggered. She looked at him, breathing hard. It's not over, he nodded. Then we keep going. The chamber was quiet now. Smoke curled up from the scorched ground, and the fallen bodies of the high guard lay scattered across the floor. Kellen sat against the wall, holding his ribs. His face was bruised, his hands shaking, but he was alive. Valari stood at the center of the room. Her armor was cracked, her leg bleeding again, but her blade was still in her hand. She looked like someone who had nothing left to prove. Kellen slowly got to his feet. Are they all gone? Valari nodded. The last ship pulled back after their commander fell. They didn't expect me to fight like that. They forgot what you are, Kellen said. She turned toward him, her expression unreadable. Even I forgot. They walked through the ruined halls of the old station. Most of the systems were damaged now, consoles shattered, lights flickering. Kellen led her to the central database room, where one console still blinked weakly. This is where your mother recorded the logs, he said. Valari placed her hand on the panel. The screen lit up. A hidden file opened, encrypted, old, never played. She didn't speak. She just watched. The screen showed a woman, Trinari, noble and kind, her eyes gentle. Valari's mother. She looked tired but calm. If you're seeing this, the message began, then the war has come, and I've failed to stop it. But I want you to know something. You, my daughter, were not raised for war. You were born from peace. Born from both sides. You carry something neither human nor Trinari can understand alone. Kellen glanced at Valari. Her hands were trembling. I hid you when the council came, her mother's voice continued. I sent you away with guards loyal to me. They told me you survived, that you became strong. I'm proud of you no matter what path you walk. But I hope you choose to lead, not with fear but with memory. The memory of what this place once was. The message ended. Valari didn't speak for a long time. She wanted me to be more than a weapon, she whispered. She wanted me to be something better. You are, Kellen said softly. I spent my whole life proving I was the strongest, she continued. I bled to earn my place in the ranks. I silenced anyone who doubted me, but I forgot where I came from. Kellen sat beside her. You didn't forget. You just buried it, because this galaxy only rewards people who fight. But you're not just a fighter. She looked at him, her voice lower now. Do you believe this place still has a chance? I think anything does. If someone like you stands for it. She closed her eyes. Then I need to stop running. He tilted his head. What do you mean? I'll call the council, she said. Not to surrender. Not to beg. But to speak. If they want to finish what they started, they'll have to answer me, and the world will see it. That's dangerous. I know. Kellen reached into his pocket and pulled out the glowing crystal she had once given him. Then take this back. If you're facing them, you'll need every piece of yourself. She took it slowly. For the first time, her hands didn't shake. We'll need help, Kellen added. You said humans were stubborn. Let's see if they're brave enough to stand beside you now. She looked out through the shattered window at the burned skies. No more hiding, she said. No more pretending. And as the winds picked up and the comms array powered on again, a new message was sent. Not a beacon of distress, but a challenge. A queen was rising from the ashes. The message went out across star channels, uncoded, unhidden, loud. It carried Valari's voice to every Trinari warship in range and beyond. It reached human command posts too, bouncing from beacon to beacon until both sides heard the same words. This war was born from fear, she said. But I carry something older than fear. I was raised in the silence between two empires. I was raised by truth, and now I stand in the ruins of what we once built together. I will not kneel. I will not run. If you want to finish what you started, come. But do not expect me to stand alone. The galaxy heard her, and it listened. Ships moved. Old commanders grew restless. But something strange happened. The Trinari did not strike immediately, and the humans didn't launch a counterattack. Instead, a reply came. A small human diplomatic cruiser landed outside the ruins 3 days later. Not a warship, No guns showing. Just one banner painted on its side, white and blue with an open hand. Kellen watched it land from the edge of the cliff. Vailari stood beside him, dressed not in full armor but in ceremonial pieces passed down from her mother's files. The crystal was embedded in her chest plate now, glowing steady and calm. "I didn't think they'd come in peace," she said. Kellen shrugged. "Sometimes people surprise you." The human ambassador stepped out. Behind her walked a Trinari elder, old, sharp-eyed, someone Vailari recognized from the council chamber she had once stood in. Both sides walked toward her. They didn't speak at first. Just stood in the dust looking at one another. Then the elder bowed just slightly. "We received your words," he said. "Many disagreed. But some remembered your mother. And others remembered you." Vailari stood tall. "I didn't come to beg. I came to offer a new path." The ambassador nodded. "And we came to listen." They walked into the station together, past ruins and fallen soldiers, past empty labs and broken chairs where peace was once planned. They sat at the old meeting table, the dust wiped clean. Kellen watched from the doorway, still holding a weapon, just in case. But he didn't need it. Not this time. They talked for hours, not about victory or surrender, but about the truth, about what Vailari had seen on the battlefield, about the children she remembered playing beside, human and Trinari alike, about the lies both sides had used to keep the war alive, and slowly, step by step, the silence turned into understanding. That night, when the delegates returned to their ships, no guns were fired. No bombs dropped, only messages. More ships came, scientists, peacekeepers, historians, journalists. The ruins became a center again. Not of power, but of memory. Vailari stayed. She didn't return to the throne she once held. She didn't want it anymore. She chose to lead in a different way. Kellen stayed too, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. Together they built something new, a joint station run by both species, a place for the next generation to learn how not to make the same mistakes. Some called it impossible, some tried to stop it. But the world had changed, and in the center of it all was the warrior queen who once stopped a human's hand before he touched the wrong part of her armor. Now, she taught others where to place their hands in peace, not war. Kellen smiled as he walked beside her one morning, watching children, both human and Trinari, running through the halls. "You know," he said, "you never did thank me for fixing your armor." Vailari looked at him and smirked. "You never fixed it. You just didn't break it worse." He laughed, and for the first time she did too.